Chapter 91 I will kill you with my own hands. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Answer my question first. I'll consider whether to tell you. Gu Zemin snorted coldly and sat down slowly. Gong Zhan on the side was stunned. He never understood why Wang Mingyang followed to see Professor Gu Zemin, but Wang Mingyang's 4 questions made him feel that something seemed wrong. Actually, I have got the answer I want. Wang Mingyang pulled a chair and sat down calmly. Since I can answer your question, young man, you should also answer my question. Gu Zemin put the notebook in his pocket, picked up the pen cap and slowly closed it. I guess the mouse should have run away 6 days ago. Wang Mingyang laughed, ignoring Gu Zemin's bargaining, and looked at him playfully. There are 3 in total, but 2 died and 1 ran away. Gu Zemin did not insist, and said calmly, but his eyes were fixed on Wang Mingyang. I guess, the mouse that ran away must be black. It's black. Confirming his guess, Wang Mingyang said slowly with a cold look in his eyes. Gu Zemin, Professor Gu, don't continue this research. Why? Why? He, because if you continue, I will definitely. Wang Mingyang stood up, spitting out 3 murderous words in a frivolous tone. Kill you with my own hands. Wang Mingyang. Calm down. Feeling Wang Mingyang's gushing murderous intent, Gong Zhan stood in front of Gu Zemin and pointed the gun at Wang Mingyang without hesitation. Gu Zemin frowned and looked at the tall young man in front of him with a puzzled look. He was very sure that he didn't know this young man, let alone offend him, but what Wang Mingyang said set off a huge wave of shock in his mind. That mouse is related to these zombies. Gu Zemin's expression was serious, and he didn't seem to care about Wang Mingyang's murderous intent towards him. It has nothing to do with it. Then why did you kill me? Because this smart rat you created may kill thousands of people, including me. Wang Mingyang's eyes were deep, and the memories of his previous life kept emerging. Before his rebirth, he died at the hands of a high-level zombie. However, that incident was not just a trap set by Zhao Yimin and others. Before that, the extremely smart Rat King had risen step by step from Chuncheng. Then he crossed the 2 provinces and led the mutant rats to the largest shelter in Sichuan province. The 2 sides fought, countless casualties, and a large amount of fresh blood and flesh attracted many high-level zombies. He escaped the rat tide, but he did not escape the sudden attack of the high-level zombies in the melee. It can be said that he died in the hands of the Rat Beast King in disguise. It is a pity that he never saw the true face of the Rat King until his death. When Wang Mingyang met the second-order mutant Rat King, he once thought that it was just a smarter mutant rat, but the more he thought about it, the more wrong it seemed. Why could the mutant Rat King be so smart? He even knew how to trigger a rat tide to raise goo, give birth to first-order zombies, and then hunt for crystal cores to strengthen himself. On the 3rd floor of this laboratory building, after seeing everything in Gu Zemin's laboratory, thanks to the intelligence blessing of quick thinking, a more distant memory emerged in Wang Mingyang's mind. During college, he once regarded a piece of news as an anecdote. Let Wang Mingyang finally connect everything together. Once, scientists cultivated a large number of neuronal cells, aggregated to produce human-like brain tissue, and injected them into the brain and body of mice, thereby causing the fusion of mouse brain cells and human-like brain tissue. Thus, mice with evolved brains were created, making these mice extremely intelligent. In some ways, it becomes more and more like a human. Serge Pascal's human-rat hybrid brain experiment. Additionally, the end of the world is coming, and the unknown energy has caused biological mutations. That smart second-order mutant Rat King is likely to be the mutant Rat King that will cause a rat tide in the future. Impossible. Although the rat has become smarter, it is still a rat. Gu Zemin grabbed his gray hair with both hands and shouted. He was indeed doing this experiment, but rats are rats, not monkeys or chimpanzees that are close relatives of humans. In his opinion, there is no ethical issue at all, and how could a rat kill thousands of people? Suddenly, Gu Zemin recalled that the rat devoured 2 other rats when it escaped, and its size became much larger than that of ordinary rats. Thinking of this, Gu Zemin's pupils suddenly shrank, and he looked at Wang Mingyang with some horror. Gu Zemin, you don't think that only this underground laboratory has an outbreak of zombies, right? Wang Mingyang said with a playful expression and a hint of mockery. Could it be? Gu Zemin suddenly felt something was wrong, and looked at Gong Zhan with a dull look. Professor Gu, for some unknown reason, zombies broke out all over the world 6 days ago, and even the animals and plants mutated and became extremely terrifying. In just a few days, most of the human beings have been killed or injured. Gong Zhan, who had been listening to the two of them talking for a long time, noticed Gu Zemin's gaze, and the steel gun in his hand did not move at all. He turned his face slightly and explained helplessly. How is this possible? Gong Zhan is a soldier, and in Gu Zemin's impression, soldiers will not lie, so, he believed Gong Zhan's words, but Gong Zhan's answer made him, so unbelievable. Just a few days ago, I met that rat. It was about the size of a wild boar at that time. Not only that, it has been able to launch tens of thousands of mutant rats. And those ordinary mutant rats are as big as a house cat. Gu Zemin, do you still think it is just an ordinary rat? Wang Mingyang's sarcastic tone made Gu Zemin feel like he was struck by lightning, and there was a look of fear in his eyes. After hearing these words, Gong Zhan couldn't help but think of the terrifying scene of rats the size of house cats, overwhelming and attacking. Shocked involuntarily, Gong Zhan swallowed his saliva and pulled the corners of his mouth with difficulty. Wang Mingyang, are you kidding? Gong Zhan, do you think I'm kidding? Wang Mingyang's face was calm, and he turned and walked out, leaving the two people dumbfounded. Gong Zhan, take Gu Zemin back to your shelter. Remember my words, don't let him think about how to make mice smarter, and study more about how to kill those mutant creatures. Otherwise, I will definitely kill him, with my own hands. Wang Mingyang's leisurely voice came, but he had disappeared outside the laboratory. In the room, the two looked at each other. After a long time, Gong Zhan put away the rifle he had raised for a long time and swallowed his saliva. Professor Gu, hurry up and follow me. The head of the headquarters has issued an order to take you back to the shelter safely. No. I can't leave yet, there are experimental instruments here, I have to do something. Gu Zemin pondered for a while, slowly shook his head, his tone was low, but full of determination. But, Captain Gong, even if I go to your military shelter, I can't do research without these scientific research instruments. Otherwise, you come back with me first, and I'll ask the headquarters to arrange people to move these instruments away later. No, you arrange people to move them first, and I'll stay here. Those zombies are experimental samples. I'm going to start studying the reasons for their mutations right away. Gu Zemin clenched his fists tightly in his white coat sleeves, and a trace of pain and regret flashed in his eyes. Well, okay, I'll ask the head of the headquarters first. Gong Zhan saw that he couldn't persuade the old man, so he had to nod helplessly. Chapter 92 Staying for Now. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Why hasn't Brother Mingyang come back yet? In the laboratory on the 6th floor, Suyu muttered to himself with a worried look on his face. You are still worried about him. With his shrewdness, how could anything go wrong? Li Yuchan smiled when he heard this, and tossed a flying sword in his hand. Just now, an armed helicopter landed, and there were gunshots behind. Could it be that the army is coming to rescue? Suyu thought of the roar of the plane just now. The teaching building where the plane landed could not be seen from the window here. With just such a plane, how many soldiers can there be, and how many people can it save? Mu Ningxue stared out the window, her eyes flickering. There was something she didn't say. Just a plane came, it is very likely just to rescue a certain person. Who cares? What does Lao Wang want to do? Looking for a laboratory, looking for lotus seeds, and staying here for 2 days. He won't want to do anything to the mutant wisteria flower, right? Li Yuchan asked doubtfully. I don't know, Brother Mingyang must have his reasons, let's just do it. Suyu shook her head. Although she was also puzzled, she believed that Wang Mingyang must have his reasons. Wang Mingyang doesn't seem like a person who acts impulsively. There must be something he needs here. We just need to take care of it. Mu Ningxue turned around and said calmly. If there is really something he needs here, it is probably only the lotus on the rooftop. Li Yuchan stroked his chin. He hadn't shaved for a few days, and his stubble had grown a lot. Should we go to the rooftop to guard it? There was a plane just now, don't let others get there first. I think it's okay. What do you think, Miss Mu? Let's go. This laboratory is just a place to stay. Let's go to the entrance of the rooftop and take a look. Mu Ningxue turned and walked out the door. As soon as she opened the door, she saw Wang Mingyang coming up from the stairs. Where are you going? Seeing the three people coming out, Wang Mingyang asked curiously. You haven't come back yet. There are planes and guns outside. We want to go to the rooftop to take a look. Li Yuchan shrugged and replied. We don't need to go to the rooftop for now. Let's talk about it tomorrow. Wang Mingyang waved his hand, looking indifferent. Those lotuses will not have any special features before they mature. Only when the spiritual energy bursts on the seventh night will they mature quickly and burst out with shocking beams. Then what should we do next? Let's stay here today. There are soldiers downstairs. They will probably leave soon. Soldiers? Is that plane really from the army? Wang Mingyang walked into the house and found a chair to sit down. Indeed, we are here to find Professor Gu Zemin. Who is Professor Gu Zemin? The three of them were puzzled. They had never heard of this name. It's Dai Bin's mentor. I didn't bother to ask his name before. I didn't expect that he was the same person those soldiers were looking for. Wang Mingyang spread his hands. This was really a coincidence. These soldiers came just to find him. Mu Ningxue frowned, feeling a little disappointed, but also expected. Well, this old man is an expert in life sciences. I guess those big shots want him to study zombies, mutants and the like. Then why did you look for him? Li Yuchan asked the question that the three of them were concerned about. It seemed that Wang Mingyang came to Yunnan University because of this. Remember that second-order mutant Rat King? It has something to do with this old man. No way. Are they related? Su Yu and Mu Ningxue were shocked. How could this scientist be related to that mutant creature? Hey. What second-order mutant Rat King? What are you talking about? I don't understand it at all. Li Yuchan shouted. The three of them were just playing dumb in front of him. He was completely confused. Su Yu covered his mouth and smiled, and quickly explained to him what happened on the night of the rat tide. After a while, during Su Yu's narration, Li Yuchan began to be stunned and looked at Mu Ningxue and Wang Mingyang in disbelief. Supreme Tai Dui Tianzuan, this mutant mouse has become a spirit. After receiving the confirmation from the two, Li Yuchan couldn't help but recite the title, which was a little hard to accept. It's almost the same. That Gu Zemin is doing an experiment on the brain. Wang Mingyang nodded and calmly explained the experiment done by Gu Zemin. This shouldn't be allowed in the biological academic community. This experiment is against ethics and morality. Mu Ningxue hesitated. Strictly speaking, it's not against human ethics. After all, it's just a mouse. If it was a monkey or a chimpanzee, it would definitely not be allowed. Wang Mingyang shook his head. Gu Zemin really didn't cross the line in this regard. However, the old man didn't expect that the advent of the end of the world caused the mutation of the experimental mouse, and the mouse escaped directly from the laboratory. This can't determine whether the second-level mouse we encountered is the one that escaped from the laboratory. Mu Ningxue was obviously a little unconvinced. It's most likely that one. Apart from that, have you ever seen a smart mutant rat similar to a human? No. Wang Mingyang's question left Mu Ningxue speechless. On the night when the rat tide broke out, at least tens of thousands of mutant rats appeared, but not one of them showed unique wisdom. Don't worry about it for now. If you meet it next time, just try to kill it. Wang Mingyang said lightly. Now his comprehensive strength is completely superior to that second-level rat. If he meets it again, he is fully confident that he can kill it. Are those soldiers still here? No, it will probably be a while. There is still a passage in the underground research room that has not been searched. Judging from the nature of soldiers, if they find the target, they will probably check it out. After all, the research room is full of scientific researchers. As Wang Mingyang spoke, he put his hand into his backpack to reveal a book, and just leaned on the chair to read through it. The other three looked at each other in confusion. Wang Mingyang's habit was really good. Su Yu and Mu Ningxue also took their backpacks and dug out some food and water to make simple replenishments. Li Yuchan stepped forward, grabbed a few packs of snacks from his backpack and spread them on the experimental table. In the underground research room, Gong Zhan walked out of the laboratory and several soldiers approached him outside the door. "Captain, why didn't Professor Gu come out? Why don't we leave?" Xiao Yu asked in a low voice. Gong Zhan shook his head and sighed softly. "We can't leave yet. Professor Gu needs those experimental instruments. Xiao Yu, you and Qinzhong go outside first, contact the headquarters and arrange for some people to come over and transport these experimental instruments. Go to the headquarters, otherwise this stubborn old man probably won't leave. This is too dangerous. There are so many zombies. Can you discuss it with Professor Gu and we can move it later?" Xiao Yu hesitated and turned to look at the laboratory. Yes. Comrade, take us back to the shelter first, it's too dangerous here. That's right, the experimental equipment won't break here. Just find a chance to pick it up later. Safety is the most important thing. That the two middle-aged researchers on the side heard this and immediately whispered advice. Gong Zhan rolled his eyes and said angrily, "It's not my fault. If you have the ability, go and persuade Professor Gu. If he says to leave, we will leave right away." This. The two of them immediately choked. As assistants, they knew Gu Zemin's stubbornness all too well. As long as it was decided by Gu Zemin, no one could change it, not even the president of Jian University. The two of them could only shake their heads in disappointment and sit helplessly in the corner. Go ahead and contact the headquarters as soon as possible. The sooner someone comes, the sooner we can leave. Gong Zhan had no choice but to wave to Xiao Yu. Yes. Captain. Xiao Yu and Qinzhong stood at attention, saluted, and quickly turned and left. You guys stay here while I go check out the other passage. There may be survivors. After the two left, Gong Zhan gave instructions to the other three soldiers and walked towards another passage. Chapter 93 Dai Bin's Choice. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After an unknown amount of time, the roar of the helicopter came again. Wang Mingyang frowned slightly. This roar seemed to come from more than one helicopter. Putting away the speed reading technique that he had just read halfway, Wang Mingyang stood up and walked out. The other three people saw this and stopped what they were doing, immediately stood up and followed him out. Walking along the corridor to the other side, Wang Mingyang pushed open a laboratory and killed several zombies inside. Standing in front of the window, through the window, he saw 3 helicopters slowly landing. Above the 2 teaching buildings not far away, the huge roar attracted all the zombies around. What exactly does Gong Zhan want to do? Wang Mingyang was puzzled, but he could vaguely guess that it should be related to Gu Zemin. 3 teams of soldiers jumped off the helicopter, and after a little preparation, they quickly opened the rooftop iron door, and the muffled gunshots rang out. These soldiers actually started to advance directly from the stairs, and it seemed that they wanted to clear out the zombies in the 2 buildings. Wang Mingyang muttered in his heart, if it was just to save Gu Zemin, it really wouldn't be worth the trouble. Thinking of this, Wang Mingyang couldn't help but look down. Unfortunately, he didn't have a perspective eye at the moment. Wang Mingyang expected that Gong Zhan would not leave for the time being. In the previous life's battle for spiritual objects, Gong Zhan was also involved, and he was one of the ones who benefited greatly. The A-level King Kong body not only has strong protection, but also has strength far beyond the general power amplification ability, which greatly improves the overall strength. In addition, Gong Zhan himself is a soldier king, and the army's killing skills are no joke. This shows that Gong Zhan must have been here when the ancient lotus seeds matured. There must be something that got him stuck here. The biggest possibility is that he was affected by Gu Zemin. The combat effectiveness of the 3 special operations teams is very strong, and they quickly cleaned up the two teaching buildings like cutting melons and vegetables. Wang Mingyang stood behind the window, silently watching them take several depressed survivors to the rooftop. These people were lucky. At least they had a high chance of survival. The teaching building farther away was not so lucky. Even though the survivors screamed desperately, the soldiers did not change their route to rescue them. Instead, after cleaning up the two buildings below the helicopter, they ran straight to the laboratory building. A plane roared and took off, taking the survivors away quickly. 3 special operations teams quickly rushed to the bottom of the laboratory building, and all the zombies approaching along the way were swept away. Wang Mingyang took Su Yu and the other 2 out of the laboratory and lay down in the corridor looking down. A vigilant soldier instantly spotted his figure and quickly reported to his captain. Before the captain took action, Gong Zhan walked out of the laboratory. "Captain, there are 4 survivors up there, which is a bit strange." "4. Strange?" Gong Zhan came out of the corridor and looked up, only to see Wang Mingyang waving at him with a smile on his face, and standing beside him was a man and 2 women he had never seen before. With his eyes narrowed slightly, Gong Zhan had learned from Dai Bin that Wang Mingyang had 3 companions. All of them were awakened, and they were very powerful. Now Dai Bin had been protected by the soldiers as a scientific researcher, and he was not too worried that Wang Mingyang would attack him. Wang Mingyang's actions in searching for ancient lotus seeds were also revealed to Gong Zhan by Dai Bin. Grinning, Gong Zhan waved at Wang Mingyang and turned back to the corridor. "Assign a team member to secretly keep an eye on those people. As long as they don't do anything out of the ordinary, don't pay attention to them or provoke them." Gong Zhan lowered his voice, instructed the team leader, and then took the others back to the underground laboratory. At this time, many experimental instruments had been dismantled in the hall of the laboratory and packed up one by one. Arranging the soldiers to carry these instruments up, Gong Zhan walked into the laboratory where Gu Zemin was. "Professor Gu, there are too many instruments here. I estimate that it will take at least 2 days to transport them by plane. Otherwise, let's dismantle this laboratory first, and you go back to the headquarters with us first. How about it?" Gong Zhan walked to Gu Zemin, who was checking something in front of a microscope, and said in a negotiating tone, "Let's dismantle the instruments in other laboratories first. I found something. Don't move the instruments here for the time being. At most, I should be able to study some clues by tomorrow night." Gu Zemin raised his head from the microscope, looked at Gong Zhan and shook his head, and glanced at the zombie corpse lying on the test bench in the observation room opposite, with a solemn expression. "This is too unsafe." Gong Zhan hesitated. "It's okay. We still have you. Besides, when we built this underground laboratory, we considered the safety issue. As long as we block the sewer, it should be fine." Gu Zemin waved his hand, signaling Gong Zhan to go out first and not disturb him, and put his eyes to the microscope to observe again. "Okay." Gong Zhan sighed and turned to leave the laboratory. Outside the laboratory, Dai Bin and 4 other researchers saw Gong Zhan coming out and immediately surrounded him. Gong Zhan found 2 more survivors in another passage before. "How is it? Is the instructor willing to leave?" Dai Bin asked. Gong Zhan shook his head and said helplessly, "Professor Gu is still unwilling to leave. I guess he will stay until tomorrow night." "Tomorrow night? How can this be done? It's too long." The researcher with glasses said anxiously. "Yes, if you have any research, you can go to the military headquarters to discuss it." The slightly fat researcher also looked anxious. Gong Zhan looked at the 2 of them with some contempt, and said with a curled lip, "After all these experimental instruments are labeled, I will arrange for you to leave first. There is nothing we can do if Professor Gu doesn't want to leave. We will stay here to protect him." Okay, let's go first." "Yeah, let's go back first and carry out other research." The other 4 nodded repeatedly. Only Dai Bin seemed to be thinking about something, but didn't speak. "What about you?" Gong Zhan looked at Dai Bin. "Xiao Dai, you go with us first. Professor Gu won't leave until tomorrow." A researcher in his 30s tugged at Dai Bin's clothes. "I won't leave, I'll wait for my tutor." Contrary to everyone's expectations, Dai Bin hesitated for a while and did not choose to leave, but wanted to stay. Xiao Dai, you kid, why? The other 4 people were a little strange and couldn't help but want to persuade him again. It seemed that Dai Bin's choice to stay made them a little embarrassed, and their faces were not very good. It doesn't matter, I've thought about it, you go first, and we'll see each other in the shelter. Dai Bin smiled slightly, his expression was humble and polite, but there was a strange light flashing in his eyes. Since the decision has been made, let's do it. Dai Bin, you stay here, and the others will go up with the soldiers who are moving the instruments. Seeing this, Gong Zhan didn't waste any words and directly called a soldier over, asking the 4 researchers to mark the various instruments in the laboratory first. Since they have to move, they will spend more effort and take them all away. After they left, Gong Zhan looked Dai Bin up and down, stretched out his big hand and slapped him on the shoulder. Not bad, the young man is courageous and ambitious. Gong Zhan laughed and turned away. Although Dai Bin is young, he is not as afraid of death as the other 4. Faced with the opportunity to leave the dangerous place, he actually chose to stay. Although his mind may not be so simple, Gong Zhan still admires him for making such a choice. Dai Bin was stunned for a while, shook his head, and showed a meaningful smile. Chapter 94 Reading 10 Lines at a Glance. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Seeing the soldiers downstairs coming and going, carrying out experimental instruments one by one, Wang Mingyang finally understood what Gong Zhan was doing. What they moved are all experimental instruments. Su Yu said in surprise. Well, it should be the intention of that Professor Gu. Wang Mingyang nodded. The army must have found more than one scientific researcher. It seems that they want to study the cause of biological mutation. Blessings and infinite heavenly master, I hope they can study something. This is too strange, there is no sign. Li Yuchan pinched the Tai Chi seal and said seriously. He. I hope so. Wang Mingyang smiled faintly. Global mutation, it is not caused by any virus. So many scientists in the previous life did not study the reason, but only found that there were many unknown cosmic energies in the air. However, it is not without gain. At least half a year later, someone developed an awakening potion for ordinary people. But for those who have not awakened their superpowers in half a year in the end of the world, even if they take the awakening potion, their future achievements will be limited. On the contrary, the various strengthening potions developed through crystal cores have become a good thing that the superpowers are eager to get. Unfortunately, Wang Mingyang didn't know who made the masterpiece. Otherwise, he could take advantage of now to directly pull the scientific researcher into the group, and then he would have a lot of crystal cores to account for when he lay at home. After watching for a while, the few people lost interest and turned back to the house to do what they had to do. The soldiers downstairs began to clean up the zombies in the experimental building one by one. They had received Gong Zhan's order and ignored the 6th floor. A dozen soldiers turned around and left when they arrived at the 5th floor, continuing to clean up the zombies in the small square in front of the experimental building. 2 planes took off immediately and landed slowly on the small square. The huge roar attracted the zombies in the distance. There was a fire awakener in the team, who spread a large piece of flame and quickly burned the zombies in the front row. There was another earth awakener who waved his hand and raised several thick earth walls, using the terrain to block the zombies, leaving only 2 gaps for diversion. The dense gunfire sounded again, and Gong Zhan led 3 teams of soldiers to firmly block the zombies 100 meters away from the laboratory building. The remaining soldiers carried the packed experimental equipment onto the plane, and took off quickly after loading it. After the plane left, Gong Zhan took off his clothes, and a golden halo appeared on his body. He jumped directly from the earth wall holding 2 sabers. The zombies suddenly started a bloody rain, and heads flew everywhere. It was not until half an hour later that most of the zombies that came were cleared, and Gong Zhan jumped onto the earth wall with a heavy breath, waving his hands repeatedly to let the soldiers retreat. The Earth Awakener activated his superpowers again and blocked the earth wall. Everyone quickly retreated to the laboratory building, leaving a bunch of zombies behind him screaming there. Without the crowd's obstruction, the zombies behind the wall gradually piled up. One by one, the zombies climbed over the earth wall, but they had lost their target and could only wander aimlessly in the small square. Captain, We have used up most of our ammunition. We can't hold on for another time. The fire-type superpower Gu Lai was the captain of a team. He checked the ammunition reserves and said helplessly to Gong Zhan. It's okay, Gu Lai, Gao Yang, you two just need to recover quickly. Gong Zhan smiled slightly, turned to Xiao Yu and said, Xiao Yu, contact the headquarters and ask the helicopter to bring more ammunition and 2 heavy machine guns when it returns. Yes. Captain. Xiao Yu received the order and quickly left to contact the headquarters. Captain, the heavy machine gun is too loud, will it? Said Gao Yang, the Earth-type superpower. It's better to be prepared. I hope it won't be used. Gong Zhan sighed lightly. He had a hidden worry in his heart. There were too many zombies in the university. Fortunately, this place is on the edge of Yunnan University, with mountains on both sides, and it is also a distance away from the core area of Yunnan University, and there is a small hill in the middle. Otherwise, the movement just now would at least attract all the zombies in Yunnan University to move, just like this. The team of more than a dozen people just now basically used up 3 or 4 full magazines and killed nearly 1,000 zombies. For a university like Yunnan University with tens of thousands of students, it is really a drop in the bucket. Wang Mingyang, what is your purpose? What is the use of those ancient lotus seeds that makes you stay here? Gong Zhan's eyes drifted to the 6th floor, muttering to himself. After a brief exchange, Gong Zhan still had no idea about Wang Mingyang's combat power. In the past few days, he had also encountered first-level zombies, and he relied on his own strong defense to kill them by force, but the threat Wang Mingyang gave him was much stronger than those first-level zombies. As a soldier, mission comes first. As long as Wang Mingyang didn't hinder him from completing the task, Gong Zhan didn't want to conflict with him. The ability Wang Mingyang showed made Gong Zhan feel apprehensive even though he had many comrades around him. What's more, he had 3 teammates with superpowers. As the night slowly fell, 3 helicopters went back and forth several times in a row, but most of the equipment in the underground laboratory was still not taken away. Gong Zhan had to arrange for the soldiers to set up the heavy machine guns transported by the helicopter in the laboratory on the 3rd floor, with the muzzle facing the periphery of the small square. The 4 researchers had already returned to the headquarters with the last 2 planes. Dai Bin still followed Gu Zemin and helped him. Gong Zhan blocked the 1st floor laboratory leading to the underground laboratory and stayed here with 2 teams of soldiers. Gong Zhan had seen mutant mosquitoes and mutant rats that might appear at night before. He arranged the other 2 teams of soldiers underground, and blocked the ventilation ducts and sewers with various sundries to prevent mutant creatures from breaking in from these 2 places at night. Wang Mingyang and his 4 companions upstairs simply ate something to fill their stomachs. Wang Mingyang used the experimental tables to seal the doors and windows, and then turned on the flashlight to continue reading. Suyu was doing his own exercises, and Mu Ningxue took out a book that Wang Mingyang lent her and silently flipped through it. Li Yuchan was training his telekinesis on a large piece of metal that Wang Mingyang helped him shape. The host was detected to have read speed reading for the first time, and the D-level ability reading 10 lines at a glance fragment +2 was extracted, and the ability of reading 10 lines at a glance, 2/4. Reward reading value, 400 points. The host's current reading value, 6,601 points. Reading 10 lines at a glance. Haha. Wang Mingyang was delighted. This name, at first glance, is simply a reading artifact. Although it is only a D-level ability, it should be able to speed up your reading speed tenfold if you understand the literal meaning. Keep working on it. 3 hours later, Wang Mingyang burst into tears. It is detected that the host is familiar with speed reading technique, and the D-level ability 10 lines at a glance fragment is extracted +1, and the ability of 10 lines at a glance, 4/4. Reward reading value, 40 points. The host's current reading value, 6,681 points. There is only 1 D-level ability, and there are 2 fragments left. He actually read it twice before it came out. It seems that although the quick thinking adds some intelligence, it is not much. System, quickly synthesize this 10 lines at a glance. Synthesize the D-level ability 10 lines at a glance. Synthesis is successful, deduct 1,000 reading points. The host's current reading value, 5,681 points. Absorbed the ability of 10 lines at a glance. Wang Mingyang quickly issued an order, and a familiar feeling came, and his whole body shuddered, and then, there was nothing else. Wang Mingyang felt the changes in his body, and the various increases were already negligible. It seems that absorbing D-level superpowers is really not very useful. Although he had expected this, Wang Mingyang was still a little disappointed. In this way, there is no need to absorb superpowers below D level unless they are particularly useful. Chapter 95, Each One Fights for Himself. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Quick thinking and reading 10 lines at a glance are both enhanced abilities. Although the level is low, they are super practical for Wang Mingyang. With these two abilities, Wang Mingyang began to think about his current shortcomings. Attack abilities include space cutting and metal control. Functional abilities include mustard seed space, and metal control can also be counted. Enhanced abilities include quick thinking and reading 10 lines at a glance. Li Yuchan's Tai Divine Mind and Mu Ningxue's ice and snow abilities in the team can both be used for protection. Su Yu's dark flame ability is also an attack ability. Although it has a group damage effect, it consumes too much. We need to extract a range attack ability as soon as possible. Metal control and space cutting both have a range of damage, but the range is a bit small. In another day, the ancient lotus seeds will mature, and the mutant creatures attracted by then will be huge. At that time, even if the mustard seed space is used to collect the mature lotus seeds, it may not be easy to break out of the siege. Wang Mingyang closed his eyes and thought while searching the library of the system in his mind. There were too many books, and the abilities that Wang Mingyang wanted to extract were too many to choose from. After thinking about it, Wang Mingyang decided to start with the basic and easy-to-understand basics of combustion. If he could extract the range of fire abilities, he could make up for the shortcomings in this area. As time passed, many people died during the day. There were also many people who took up homemade weapons, walked out of their homes, fought zombies, and searched for supplies, but at night, few people dared to go out. After the previous few nights, the survivors more or less knew that various clusters of mutant creatures would go out at night. In such a situation, even if the abilities were awakened, it was still difficult to escape. At this time, in the boys' dormitory building, Tianlei was distributing supplies to the surviving team members. During the day, they bravely went out to search for supplies, but unfortunately, they only searched this dormitory building, and 2 ordinary members had died. Only a small amount of instant noodles, biscuits and residual mineral water were found. Everyone was terrified, especially the remaining 2 ordinary members, who were pale. Fortunately, the 5 members who awakened their superpowers survived. After the battle during the day, they gradually gained some confidence. Tianlei, there are helicopters coming in during the day, and there are zombies rioting over there. Will someone come to rescue? Wenguang said with a glimmer of hope while chewing a pack of instant noodles. Yes, but it's a pity that we can't see the situation over there because of the small hill. Lu Hui nodded, a little regretful. I don't think it's likely that the rescue has arrived, otherwise there must be gunshots. Yao Zhichai took off the books tied to his body along with his clothes. There were some scratches on the surface of those books. Don't worry about him. At this time, even if there is rescue, it is probably to save those big shots. Tianlei took a pack of instant noodles for himself and stuffed the remaining food and backpack into the cabinet. Do you think it's the masterpiece of those big brothers? Li Xiang tried to use superpowers to fill a basin with water. Although his ability was weak and his binding force was poor, he could condense a long stream of water out of thin air, which made the whole team no longer lack water. Unfortunately, Li Xiang's energy reserve was only enough to release 3 streams of water, which could almost fill a small basin. It's very likely. In this school, they are probably the only ones who have this ability. Wenguang said vaguely. In fact, as long as we are more cautious, those zombies are not difficult to kill, but it's a pity for the 2 classmates. Tianlei said sadly that if he could release the hot chain faster at that time, the 2 classmates would not be bitten to death by the zombies. Everyone couldn't help but quiet down when they heard this, and their faces were heavy. Don't blame yourself, this is our own choice. One of the ordinary members was silent for a while and said, another one nodded when he heard this, it's better to die in battle than to starve to death. It's a pity that we haven't awakened our abilities, otherwise we can definitely kill more zombies. Although these two boys didn't awaken their abilities, they could take the initiative to stand up and fight the zombies. Obviously, their courage and psychological preparation were much better. Tianlei and his friends felt relieved after hearing this. In fact, how good were they at the beginning of the battle with zombies? Although their physical fitness had been strengthened once, their psychological quality had not been improved. Except for Tianlei and Zhuangguang, it was basically the first time for others to face zombies directly. They were able to survive, thanks to Wang Mingyang and his friends who had led away all the zombies wandering in the corridor. For the afternoon battle, they only needed to be prepared and open the doors one by one to welcome the zombies. Even so, 2 students died. The windows are blocked, and those mutant creatures should not be able to get in at night. Everyone should have a good rest and we will continue tomorrow. Tianlei finished the instant noodles in his hand, licked his fingers, got up and climbed onto the bed and lay down. The rest of the people also climbed onto the bed, or spread the quilts they found from the dormitory next door on the ground, and the 7 of them soon lay down. But whether they could fall asleep was another matter. Ding Cheng, who had awakened the B-level superpower Iron Skin, was gathering with the remaining 4 people in a small supermarket. The doors and windows of the supermarket were blocked, and there were many scattered packaging bags on the ground. It's a pity that Lu Nian and Sudan are starving to death and can't eat these good things. Li Haoyan said vaguely while drinking Coke and chewing braised pig's trotters. Well, it's their own bad luck, otherwise they would definitely be able to outrun those zombies. Zhang Yan frowned. Yesterday, they finally arrived at the library safely under the leadership of Ding Cheng and stayed inside for a night, taking advantage of the sudden sound of iron cymbals that attracted many zombies away. Lu Ming suggested to come to this small supermarket early the next morning to find supplies. Everyone nodded in agreement, and seeing that there were very few zombies on the road, they were all eager to try. Unfortunately, Sudan sprained his foot while running, and when he fell, he pulled Lu Nian down. The 2 were pounced on by the zombies chasing behind them. Even if Ding Cheng wanted to turn back to rescue, it was too late. The remaining 5 people finally arrived at this small supermarket safely. Ding Cheng relied on the strong defense of his steel skin and hammered several zombies inside with the steel pipes he found. After sealing the doors and windows, they began to eat and drink. Eat less. You've been hungry for so many days. You can't eat like this. Lu Ming said lightly while taking a sip of water. Ding Cheng sat aside and wiped the blood off his body with a rag. Although there are a lot of supplies here, we can't just sit back and eat. There are a lot of knives in the supermarket. Make some long knives and long spears tomorrow. You also have to learn to fight zombies. The 4 people's faces were a little stiff when they heard it. These 2 days, they basically waited for Ding Cheng to lead the zombies away, and then they took the opportunity to run to a safe place to hide. Ding Cheng's words obviously meant that he didn't want to continue like this, but if they had to face those terrifying zombies directly, the 4 people were somewhat afraid. There are so many supplies here, enough for us to last for a month. There will be a helicopter coming today. Maybe there will be rescue in a few days. Lu Mei frowned, looking reluctant. Everyone saw the helicopter hovering and landing from a distance. The other 3 people had flickering eyes and had the same idea. If there really was rescue, how come there was no gunfire? Ding Cheng said with an unhappy face. They didn't know that Gong Zhan and his men had silencers installed on their guns, so even Tianlei and his men in the boys' dormitory didn't hear the muffled sound, not to mention that they were nearly 2 kilometers away, with a mountain in between. Ding Cheng threw the blood-stained rag into the trash can and continued, it's unrealistic to wait for rescue. We are too far away from the military area. If the troops really want to rescue, they will definitely give priority to the city center, where there are more survivors. It's unknown when the troops will arrive here. Instead of pinning our hopes on illusory rescue, we might as well rely on ourselves. Li Haoyan's eyes flickered, and he gnawed the pig's trotter in his hand and muttered softly, we are not like you, with superpowers. Although the voice was small, it was so close that everyone heard it clearly. The other 3 people all had a flash of envy in their eyes. but none of them said anything. Ding Qing sighed in his heart, not knowing whether he was right or wrong to work so hard. Window, _tabula equals window, _tabula dot push, mode, thumbs, feed, 01, container, tabula below article feed, placement, below article feed, target _type, mix. Chapter 96 Assisting Suyu. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The host is detected to have read Basics of Combustion for the first time, extracting sea-level superpower oxygen control fragments +2, oxygen control superpower, 2/5. Reward reading value, 500 points. Host current reading value, 7,101 points. The host is detected to have read Basics of Combustion thoroughly, extracting, host current reading value, 7,201 points. Oxygen control. Let's synthesize it first. Synthesize sea-level superpower oxygen control, synthesis successful, deduct 1,000 reading points. Host current reading value, 6,201 points. Absorb. The absorption of sea-level superpowers has a clear effect on the strengthening of the body. Wang Mingyang only felt a shock all over his body, as if he had broken through a certain layer of obstacles. Second level. Feeling the changes in his body, Wang Mingyang felt that he should have made a breakthrough through the absorption of oxygen control superpowers and reached the level of a second-level superpower. However, his mental strength, energy, and physical strength far exceeded those of the second-level superpowers in his previous life. It is not an exaggeration to say that he is now a third-level superpower, but he has indeed only experienced 2 breakthroughs, which makes Wang Mingyang a little confused. However, thinking back to the geniuses in his previous life who were far superior to the same level of combat power, Wang Mingyang nodded in his heart. I am also a genius now. Oxygen control, as the name suggests, can control the oxygen in the air. I originally wanted to extract a fire-related superpower, but I didn't expect to come up with this. Wang Mingyang tapped his finger in front of him, and the oxygen concentration in a fist-sized space increased rapidly. He put his nose close to it and took a breath, and immediately felt nothing. Frowning, Wang Mingyang thought for a while, took out a lighter and lit a small flame. Carefully moved the flame under the ball of air. The flame touched the ball of air, and it burned violently with a whoosh, directly from a small flame to a ball of flame. Fuck! Wang Mingyang threw the lighter away instantly, and the flame almost burned his hand. I say, Lao Wang, you just lit a cigarette. You shouldn't get so angry, right? Right triangulary operators. Li Yuchan heard the noise and saw a ball of fire disappearing quickly in front of Wang Mingyang, and couldn't help laughing. TSK, you idiot, you don't know anything. Wang Mingyang was too lazy to pay attention to him. Frowning and thinking about the application of this oxygen control, he picked up the lighter on the ground, adjusted the level to the maximum, and lit another flame. Wang Mingyang stared at the flame in front of him, and with a thought, he quickly extracted the oxygen around the flame. In a flash, the flame quickly wilted and went out directly. Absorb or extract the surrounding oxygen, increase or decrease the oxygen concentration within the range. These are the 2 ways of application that Wang Mingyang has temporarily tested, although they are not the fire ability he wants. However, full combustion requires oxygen or oxides as combustion aids, which is an important point he learned from Basics of Combustion. The advantage is that by increasing the oxygen concentration, the already burning flame can be made more intense. The disadvantage is, there needs to be enough combustibles, and someone needs to light the fire. In this way, when dealing with zombies, oxygen control can only assist Suyu, if it is against people. Thinking of this, Wang Mingyang couldn't help but grin. This ability is invisible and intangible, colorless and tasteless. It is simply a weapon to sneak into people. Mental power diffused out, and Wang Mingyang quickly confirmed that after this promotion, his mental power range has reached a distance of 50 meters. In this way, the range of his series of external abilities has been greatly improved. At the same time, Wang Mingyang stroked his chin. Although oxygen control is only sea level, if it is used well, the effect is no less than A-level ability. Moreover, this ability still has room for integration and development in the future. This ability, the top of the list, should be the ability to control the air. That is the real meteorological level ability. the ability to deal group damage is temporarily available, and there is still 1 day left. Wang Mingyang still has time to extract 1 or 2 more abilities to enrich his means. Learning is endless. Wang Mingyang has already installed the pair of duck feet of quick thinking, and now he has installed the pair of duck wings of reading 10 lines at a glance. Swimming fast. The next morning, the roar of the helicopter sounded again, waking up the 4 people who were sleeping soundly. Wang Mingyang quickly got up and melted the metal plates blocking the doors and windows. He opened the door and went out. The warm morning sun shone on his body, and Wang Mingyang stretched his body. Siyu rubbed his sleepy eyes and lay on the fence, looking down. More than a dozen soldiers were already on full alert. The earthen walls around the small square are still blocking it. The good thing about earth-related abilities is that the changed terrain will remain the same. The battle started again, and the low gunshots through the silencer did not attract zombies from farther away. Compared with yesterday, the intensity of the battle was much less. After clearing the zombies near the small square, a group of soldiers moved the bodies away, and the helicopter began to land. The soldiers below were busy, constantly moving various packaged scientific research instruments. Wang Mingyang turned back to the house, ate a simple meal, and continued to read. Seeing Wang Mingyang like this, the other 3 had to continue doing their own things. In the dormitory area, Tianlei led the team members and quietly walked out of the dormitory building. After what happened last night, a few more hungry boys chose to join. The team expanded to 11 people, and those who had not joined were also hesitant. If rescue did not arrive, these people would definitely not be able to hold on, and they would have no choice but to fight for their lives. This time, Tianlei chose another dormitory building next door. In the small supermarket, Ding Cheng was holding a steel pipe removed from the shelf and was constantly wrapping a sharp knife with tape. 3 long knives made in this way were already placed at the feet, and Lu Ming and the other 4 were eating silently on the side. In the girls' dormitory, the comprehensive building, the teachers' dormitory, and other teaching buildings, many of the remaining college students chose to fight for their lives. Today is the 7th day of the apocalypse, and many survivors have consumed all their food, and have even been hungry for 2 or 3 days. If they don't fight for their lives, they won't even have the chance to fight for their lives. In the corners of the city center, mutant cats and dogs dragged corpses on the roadside into the shadows, making waves of creepy chewing sounds. In the empty sewer connection under the city, tens of thousands of mutant rats were gnawing on corpses. A black-skinned giant rat was lying on an open space, sleeping with its eyes closed. There seemed to be a piece missing on its right shoulder, and its black hair was obviously much shorter. In a prison somewhere on the outskirts of the city, a scarred man in prison uniform was leaning on an office chair, his feet on the desk, smoking leisurely, and looking at several prisoners standing in front of the desk with a playful look. There was also a male corpse in a tattered police uniform lying on the ground, as if he had been tortured cruelly before his death. Hotels, schools, apartments, communities, office buildings, shopping malls, the whole city was full of survivors ready to move. Similarly, there were weak people hiding at home or in a corner waiting desperately. On the 7th day of the apocalypse, more and more people awakened their superpowers, but the awakening of superpowers was completely random. Whether it was a prisoner who had committed many crimes or a kind person who had won the Good Citizen Award, they were all treated equally at this time. It was those who were full of hostility who chose to go out and fight. On the contrary, the probability of awakening superpowers would be higher. As a result, more villains will gain the upper hand and obtain more supplies. Because they are more fierce and courageous, they will kill zombies or people without mercy. The darkness of human nature caused and magnified by the collapse of social order begins to gradually emerge. Window_tabula equals window_tabula_tabula dot push mode. Thumbs, feed, 01 foot, container, tabula below article feed, placement, below article feed, target_type, mix. Chapter 97 Let's Go Big. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Wang Mingyang was reading books all day, and his reading value once reached 9,531 points. He gained a sea-level speed and a sea-level muscle strengthening again. He even extracted a D-level air cannon. During this period, he did not choose those difficult books, but chose a few simple and easy-to-understand books to read quickly. Looking at the reading value of nearly 10,000, Wang Mingyang licked his lips and opened the book 300 Children's Songs, seeing that the sun was already setting. Wang Mingyang wanted to try to see if he could fuse a few useful abilities: E-level fireball, E-level magnetization, E-level image retention, E-level mild explosion, E-level illumination, E-level plant growth, E-level movement with the wind. A series of E-level ability prompts sounded in his mind, and Wang Mingyang shook his head helplessly. These abilities, just looking at the name, you can tell that they are not fun. After all, they are extracted from children's books, which is expected. Wang Mingyang has not yet absorbed the abilities of ice armor, leap, fluorescence, underwater breathing, silk spinning, and communication. Among them, ice armor is a D-level ability. System: fuse the three abilities of fluorescence, illumination, and wind moving. Consume 100 reading points. Fusion begins. Wait. Invest 1000 reading points. Wang Mingyang slapped his forehead, almost forgetting that the system has this function. If you don't invest reading points, there is a high probability that you will fuse another ability that will dig a hole for yourself. Consume 1100 reading points. Fusion begins. Fusion successful. Obtain the D-level ability, Floating Light Ball. The host's current reading value, 8,431 points. Floating Light Ball. Wang Mingyang was stunned and quickly looked at the ability analysis. Floating Light Ball, D-level ability, releases a light ball that floats in the wind, with a lighting range of 20 meters. The light ball will not release light before reaching the predetermined position, and the object illuminated by its light will have fluorescence for a period of time. Wow! This 1100 reading points are not a loss. This time I won't make a mistake. Wang Mingyang laughed. This floating light ball can finally be used as a small trick. Fighting at night, vision is very important. Just throw a floating light ball from the dark, and those mutant creatures will have nowhere to hide. Of course, if you throw one on someone during the day, at night, it will be, go, go, go. System: merge the three abilities of small fireball, magnetization, and mild explosion. Invest 1000 reading points. No. Invest 8,431 reading points. Wang Mingyang thinks that these three E-level abilities are likely to produce some interesting changes. Just go all in and play big. Consume 8431 reading points. Fusion begins. Fusion successful. Obtain C-level ability, Magnetic Burst Fireball. Host's current reading value, 0 points. C-level Magnetic Burst Fireball. Looking at this level, Wang Mingyang was a little surprised. With more than 8,000 reading points, 3 E-level abilities actually merged into a C-level ability. Magnetic Burst Fireball, C-level ability, releases a small fireball with absorption ability and produces an explosion. The ability analysis is very simple, but Wang Mingyang saw the peculiarity of this ability from it. With absorption ability. Isn't this just tracking to some extent? Wang Mingyang was happy. This ability can not only cooperate with his oxygen control to ignite, but also track and explode. He has thought of an interesting scene: absorb several newly extracted abilities and put away several materialized books. Throw this 300 children's songs that contributed multiple abilities into the mustard seed space. Wang Mingyang stood up and walked out, and by the way, stretched his stiff body. Brother Mingyang, something is wrong with me. Suyu called softly and kept him. What's wrong? Wang Mingyang turned around and looked at Suyu, who was sitting near the door. How should I put it? The energy in my body seems to be a little swollen. Suyu walked to Wang Mingyang, looked at his hands, and said with some concern. Swelling? Relax, I'll take a look. Wang Mingyang was stunned, then put his hand on Suyu's shoulder, and his mental power rushed out to explore Suyu's body. Soon, Wang Mingyang withdrew his mental power and smiled. It's okay, you're about to break through. Break through? Do you mean, am I going to be promoted? Well, try to see if you can feel the energy in the outside world that is similar to that in your body. If you can, try to attract some into your body, and you should be able to break through. Wang Mingyang patted Suyu's shoulder. The energy in her body has reached the critical point, and it is estimated that she will break through soon. There will definitely be a fierce battle in the evening, and now is the right time to improve her strength. Suyu smiled and nodded, turned around and sat back to where she was, closed her eyes and began to try. Wang Mingyang walked out of the house, lay on the corridor, lit a cigarette, and looked down silently. As the seventh night approaches, the concentration of external energy will continue to rise. The closer it is to the time of the spiritual energy explosion, the faster it will rise for both humans and mutant creatures. Several first-level zombies have appeared in the small square. Under the suppression of hot weapons, Gong Zhan cooperated with Gu Lai and Gao Yang to quickly kill these first-level zombies. As soldiers, their fighting frequency is definitely higher than that of Su Yu and the other two. In this case, they constantly consume and recover, and they enter the first level earlier than the three of them. Originally, Wang Mingyang wanted to wait until night fell before secretly touching the box, but as soon as the battle was over, Gong Zhan ignored the bloodstains and directly picked up two sabers to turn over the heads of those first-level zombies. 4 or 5 first-level zombies actually found 2 crystal cores for him. Wang Mingyang was stunned. Did these soldiers know the secret of the crystal core so early? However, Wang Mingyang immediately remembered the purpose of these soldiers coming here. I'm afraid they have dissected the corpses of zombies before. This is also as it should be. There are military hospitals in the military area to face strange things like zombies. If they don't find a few to dissect and see, Wang Mingyang thinks those doctors are not competent enough. Among the various forces in the previous life, the most powerful ones were basically the major military regions. In the early stage of the apocalypse, the lethality of thermal weapons was really terrifying. The military region also harvested the most crystal cores. Wang Mingyang and Gong Zhan, who had returned to the laboratory building, looked at each other and gave each other a polite smile. Night was about to fall, and the last helicopter flew away quickly. Gong Zhan led a group of soldiers to withdraw to the laboratory. After several consecutive battles in the afternoon, these soldiers were very tired. Wang Mingyang turned and walked onto the rooftop, opened the iron door, and saw the huge mutant wisteria flower still swaying in the wind. With his eyes narrowed, Wang Mingyang was thinking about whether to kill it now. This mutant wisteria flower should have the strength of the first level at this moment. If it is at night, it should be able to be promoted to the second level under the outbreak of spiritual energy. If it is killed at that time, it should be possible to harvest a second level wood crystal core. Moreover, many mutant plants, in addition to crystal cores, will also breed some strange objects containing vitality, which can quickly recover from injuries. However, the second level mutant wisteria flower is also a threat to Su Yu and the other two. As if sensing Wang Mingyang's murderous intent, the branches and leaves of the mutant wisteria flower began to tremble. In the end, Wang Mingyang chose to keep it temporarily. The second level wood crystal core is not so easy to get in the city. Night fell. An hour later, at 8:30 in the evening, something happened that caught Wang Mingyang off guard. In the center of the rooftop, the ancient lotus in the artificial pond gradually emitted a magical colorful halo. Chapter 98, Sit on the mountain and watch the tigers fight. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Under the misty and cold moonlight, this colorful halo with a radius of 10 meters is so conspicuous. Oh no! Wang Mingyang exclaimed in a low voice. This scene was not in the information he obtained in his previous life. However, Wang Mingyang had doubts before. If Gong Zhan had been here at that time, why didn't he harvest all the lotus seeds? Only a part of them was obtained, and the other part was taken away by the other three. Seeing the spiritual light blooming from the lotus in the pond, Wang Mingyang finally figured it out. When the ancient lotus seeds mature, there will be spiritual light rising to the sky, but before they mature, there will still be spiritual light blooming. It's just that the movement is not that big. The mutant wisteria flower seemed to feel the breath of the ancient lotus seeds about to mature, and the branches hanging on the edge of the rooftop retracted one after another, surrounding the entire pond. Humph. You are sensible. Wang Mingyang looked at the wisteria flower with a slightly cold look in his eyes. Seeing that it did not directly pick the ancient lotus seeds, the black line in front of him quickly disappeared. Obviously, this mutant wisteria flower also knew that these lotus seeds were not yet mature, so it did not pick them rashly. Is it the instinct of the plant? Wang Mingyang's heart moved slightly. A first-level mutant plant would not have such wisdom. He turned back downstairs and prepared to bring Su Yu and the other two up. Brother Mingyang, I have made a breakthrough. Su Yu saw Wang Mingyang enter the room and stood up and said with a smile. Wang Mingyang stretched out his hand to rub her head, and said with a smile, "Not bad. Not bad. I have also made a breakthrough." Mu Ningxue stood up and raised her chin slightly towards Wang Mingyang. "Oh. It's you." Wang Mingyang was stunned, then smiled and gave a thumbs up. "I'm not bad either. I feel I'm just a little bit behind," Li Yuchan shouted. His talent was not inferior to Suyu, but he had less combat experience. "Come on. You can do it," Wang Mingyang gestured to him and then said, "Pack your things, let's go to the rooftop." "Ah. It's almost dark, why are you still going up?" "It's very dangerous at night," Li Yuchan said puzzledly. Suyu and Mu Ningxue also looked at Wang Mingyang with doubts. "You will know when you come up, hurry up." Wang Mingyang grabbed his backpack and walked out quickly. Suyu and the other two saw that Wang Mingyang was serious, so they hurriedly packed their things and quickly followed. When they arrived at the rooftop, the three saw the lotus flowers blooming with spiritual light at a glance. Fushan Wuliang Tianzuan. "My God, what's going on? Did I go to the wrong place?" When the Yuchan saw the lotus flowers that looked like fairy objects, he was shocked and couldn't help but recite the title. Suyu and Mu Ningxue looked at these lotus flowers with intoxicated faces. Under the magical light, several lotus flowers exuded a dreamlike beauty. Zombies have appeared, so it's not strange to see some magical things. Wang Mingyang smiled faintly, walked to the edge of the rooftop and leaned against it, but his eyes were a little worried. The lotus flowers cultivated from these ancient lotus seeds are emitting brighter and brighter light under the night sky. Just like a lighthouse, it will continue to attract mutant creatures around. There are nearly 4 hours before the spiritual energy explodes. During this period, I don't know how many powerful mutant creatures will swarm in. At the same time, in unknown corners all over the blue planet, mysterious spiritual objects began to bloom. Lucky or unfortunate humans, zombies, and mutant creatures gradually gathered towards these spiritual objects, and a tragic battle was about to break out. As time passed, a dense sound of flapping wings came from far away. Wang Mingyang quickly mobilized the surrounding metal to gather together, blocking the stairwell firmly, forming a mesh cage at the entrance of the rooftop stairs, and wrapping himself and the other four in it. The spiritual object is not yet mature, so let this mutant wisteria fight those mutant mosquitoes first. Wang Mingyang took Suyu and the other two to sit on the mountain and watch the fight. Mosquitoes as big as dinner plates swarmed in, and the branches of the mutant wisteria flowers waved. The tiny flowers gathered together to form a large purple mouth, which continued to devour the dense mutant mosquitoes. Through the iron net at the entrance of the stairs, Wang Mingyang keenly discovered that among the mosquitoes there was a mosquito king that was obviously much larger. This mosquito king was flexible and extremely fast. Every time it passed by the branches of the wisteria flowers, it would stab those branches with its long mouthparts. A black halo appeared on the branches and quickly spread toward the main body of the wisteria flowers. "It's quite poisonous," Wang Mingyang murmured. The main weapon of ordinary mutant mosquitoes is the sharp mouthparts, but this mosquito king actually has the ability to poison. I don't know which species of mutant mosquitoes it is. Wang Mingyang carefully reminded everyone of this. The target of these mosquitoes is temporarily concentrated on the wisteria flower that protects food, and it is uncertain what will happen next. Spring City is destined to be restless tonight. There are faint wolf howls coming from a few kilometers away. It is unknown whether it is a mutant dog or a mutant wolf from the zoo. The battle between the mutant mosquito swarm and the wisteria flower is gradually becoming more intense. The branches of the wisteria flower are broken and scattered all over the ground. Those mosquitoes are also killed and injured innumerable times, either cut in half by the sharp leaves on the branches or swallowed by the big mouths of the petals. But obviously, this mutant wisteria flower that is about to be promoted to the second level is much more powerful than this group of mosquitoes led by only one first-level mutant mosquito king. Looking at the mosquito swarm that has lost more than half of its size in the air, Wang Mingyang smiled. With a thought, the oxygen control ability was activated, directly wrapping the area where the group of mosquitoes was, and the surrounding oxygen quickly gathered. "Suyu, throw a fireball at that group of mosquitoes." "Oh, okay." Suyu heard this, and a dark red fireball rose in his hand. The iron net in front of him opened a round hole, and Suyu threw the fireball directly. The dark red fireball flew straight to the most densely populated area of mosquitoes and suddenly exploded. More than a dozen mutant mosquitoes were immediately ignited by the dark red flame, followed by another roar, and the flames in the air spread and burned rapidly. In just a few seconds, the entire mosquito group was ignited, and the mutant mosquitoes wrapped in flames kept falling. Is my little fireball so powerful? Suyu looked at his hands in surprise. A little unbelievable. Mu Ningxue was also shocked. After Suyu was promoted to the first level, he was so strong. Only Li Yuchan looked puzzled and tilted his head to look at Wang Mingyang. Just now, he felt a subtle fluctuation in Wang Mingyang. This is a little trick of mine. You can think of it as a low-level ability, which plays a little auxiliary role. Wang Mingyang smiled faintly and did not hide it. He will have more and more abilities in the future, and it is impossible to hide them all. Fuck. Boss Wang, you have awakened 3 abilities. Li Yuchan was shocked. This is fucking. Is it because people are so angry? Well, I guess so. Try to keep it secret and don't tell outsiders. Wang Mingyang nodded, his expression indifferent. You are awesome. Li Yuchan gave a thumbs up, and was too lazy to ask why Wang Mingyang awakened so many abilities. Everyone has some secrets, right? Suyu and Mu Ningxue's eyes lit up and they gave thumbs up together. Wang Mingyang ignored Li Yuchan and looked at the sky with burning eyes. The mosquito swarm was killed or injured, but the first-level Mosquito King survived. A flying sword flew out like lightning, and pierced the Mosquito King's back when he was about to escape. The flying sword suddenly turned into a hollow ball, tightly wrapped the Mosquito King's body, avoided the branches of the mutant wisteria flower, and flew directly back to Wang Mingyang's hand, with a cold snort. Wang Mingyang didn't care about the mutant wisteria flower. With its current ability, it couldn't break the iron cage at all. The hollow ball turned into a flying sword again, and Wang Mingyang directly cut the Mosquito King's body with a sword. Luckily, he actually turned out a dark green crystal core. Chapter 99 about to mature. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Poison crystal core. What a pity. Looking at the dark green crystal core in his hand, Wang Mingyang sighed. Mutated mosquitoes are usually ordinary enhanced-type crystal nuclei and blood-type crystal nuclei. There aren't many mosquitoes with poisonous abilities like this Mosquito King. Several people present were not suitable to absorb this crystal core unless the poisonous energy in the crystal core was purified. Wang Mingyang doesn't have this ability yet, so he can only flip it casually and temporarily put it into the mustard space. Wang Mingyang, what is the use of this lotus? These brilliants will attract more mutated creatures. Mu Ningxue frowned and asked with a hint of worry. Wang Mingyang smiled slightly, pointed at the mutated wisteria and said, didn't you see that the wisteria is protecting these lotus flowers? It must be of great use. Infinite blessings, Heavenly Lord, I have never seen a lotus that shines brightly. It is just like a spiritual creature from heaven and earth in myths and legends. Maybe you can become an immortal after eating it. Li Yuchan recited the title and analyzed it seriously. Oh, you still want to become an immortal? Are you thinking too much? Suyu expressed disbelief. Is becoming an immortal so simple? I don't know if they will become immortals, but I think these lotus flowers must not be mature yet, otherwise the wisteria flower will not protect them at all and just swallow them. Wang Mingyang shook his head and said calmly. After the lotus withers, it will form a lotus pod with lotus seeds inside, which will mature slowly. You mean, this mutant wisteria is waiting for the lotus to wither and the lotus seeds to mature? Su Yuxian held the lotus flowers. They were still in buds yesterday, but now they have fully bloomed. It should be like this, otherwise there is no way to explain. Mu Ningxue nodded and agreed with Suyu's guess. Okay, don't think about it too much. It is estimated that these lotus flowers will take some time to mature. You should be prepared. Once the lotus flowers wither and the lotus seeds mature, I will snatch them as soon as possible. You do your best to stop the mutant creatures that may be attracted. Once we get the lotus seeds, we will retreat to the northeast as soon as possible. Wang Mingyang waved his hand, pointed to the northeast and ordered. Good. Clear. Don't worry, that the three of them responded in unison, and Li Yuchan even walked to the side and sat down cross-legged. He already felt that he was about to break through. While there is still some time, breakthrough as soon as possible can better help Wang Mingyang. The time soon came to 11 o'clock, and there were more and more mutant creatures around, mutated birds, mutated rats, mutated cats and dogs, zombie hunters, various mutant creatures appeared one by one. Before they reached the experimental building, these mutant creatures had already begun to kill each other. Several obviously powerful mutated creatures stood around the small square, wary of each other, but did not rush forward. It just drove the low-level mutant creatures to rush towards the experimental building, but the mutant wisteria flower had been promoted to the second level as early as an hour ago. These mutated creatures below the second level are no match for him at all. At the same time, Gong Zhan in the laboratory on the first floor was leading a dozen soldiers, observing through the gaps in the window blockers. "Captain, what are those colorful lights on the roof? They have attracted so many mutant creatures," Gu Lai asked curiously. If he hadn't observed a few suspected second-order mutant creatures, he would have wanted to go out and have a look. "I don't know, Xiao Yu, go and call Dai Bin and ask." Gong Zhan looked at Xiao Yu and ordered, and the latter quickly ran towards the elevator. Looking towards the sixth floor, Gong Zhan murmured in his heart, that Wang Mingyang has never left. It cannot be related to tonight's incident. Xiao Yu quickly took Dai Bin back to the first floor. There was still Gu Zemin's laboratory in the underground laboratory that had not yet been moved, so Dai Bin never left. "Captain Gu, are you looking for me?" Dai Bin came in a hurry, ran to Gong Zhan and asked in a low voice. Gong Zhan patted a soldier beside him to get out of the way and pulled Dai Bin over. "What's on the roof?" Gong Zhan asked, pointing to the colorful light reflecting the night sky on the roof and the mutated creatures that were constantly fighting with the branches of mutated wisteria flowers. Dai Bin looked up with confusion. From the window of this laboratory, he could only see half of the rooftop, but it was enough for Dai Bin to see clearly what was happening on the rooftop. "This is..." Dai Bin opened his mouth wide. There was something fishy indeed. "It has been happening for a while. There are more and more mutated creatures around, and a zombie wave is about to break out," Gong Zhan said in a serious tone, even though they had already blocked the laboratory tightly. "But with so many mutated creatures gathering, who knows what will happen." On the rooftop, several professors from the Department of Botany have planted a wisteria flower that has been there for many years. That Wang Mingyang came up before and said that this wisteria flower has mutated. Dai Bin said slowly. Gong Zhan frowned. "Even if it's a mutated wisteria flower, it won't cause such a big fuss. What's going on with those colorful lights?" In addition to this mutated wisteria, there is also an artificial pond in the center of the rooftop with several lotus plants. "Lotus?" "Yes, but these lotus flowers are a little special." "What's so special?" "You said it all at once." Gong Zhan was anxious. These lotus flowers were cultivated from 5 ancient lotus seeds. Wang Mingyang seems to have come specifically to find them." Dai Bin swallowed his saliva and said hurriedly. Gong Zhan was stunned. "Why did Wang Mingyang come here to do this?" "I don't know what his purpose is." Dai Bin shook his head, hesitating. Gong Zhan thought about how he met Wang Mingyang and couldn't help but slap his forehead. He always thought that Wang Mingyang was a bit unusual, but he didn't expect it to be so extraordinary. Obviously, Wang Mingyang seemed to be waiting for this scene. Thinking of this, Gong Zhan couldn't sit still. "Gu Lai, Gao Yang, you two are coming with me to take a look. The others are on standby to guard the underground research room." Gong Zhan gave the order cleanly. Only the 3 of them here have awakened their powers, and their qualities are much stronger in all aspects. "Yes, Captain." Gong Zhan quickly opened a gap in the window, and the 3 of them quickly jumped out, and the gap was blocked again. Dai Bin looked out the window, his eyes flickering, and a special energy filled his body. Gong Zhan and the other 3 walked to the corridor in the center of the first floor and quietly climbed to the rooftop. The entire experimental building had been cleared of zombies, and the mutated creatures that had gathered now rushed up the walls and stairs. Instead, they didn't.
Noticed the three Gongzhan people climbing up the corridor fence. On the balcony of the boys' dormitory, Tianlei looked at the night sky over the laboratory building with a troubled expression. There were brilliant colored lights surging. In the complex building, Xiaolu stood by the window, looking down at the tide of corpses gradually gathering around the experimental building. Holding the edge of the window sill tightly, the tiles turned into powder and fell down one after another. In the teacher's dormitory building not far from the small supermarket, Ding Qing ignored the food and water in the room and turned to the balcony. In the distant sky, a cloud covered the moonlight, but in the darkness there was a group of colorful lights piercing the darkness. On the roof of the residential building in the city village, Zhenghong, Chao Jing and others stood at the top of the stairs and looked in the direction of the university town. The light that cut through the darkness was reflected in his eyes. Various mutated creatures near the university town, as well as human survivors, have been attracted by increasingly bright auras one after another. Chapter 100, Aura of Light Soaring into the Sky. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The dark clouds in the sky covered the moonlight, making the lotus's spiritual light more conspicuous. A second-level hunter was ready to move, and his body crouched on the ground and hid in the shadows. Outside the wall of Yunnan University, a giant zombie nearly 6 meters tall roared and kicked down the high wall with 1 foot, running straight from the experimental building. On the other side, a black and white mutant giant dog the size of a calf led a variety of mutant dogs out from the street and flexibly climbed over the wall. It was almost dawn, and the energy and spiritual energy on the blue planet became more and more dense, and mutant creatures frequently advanced. There were more and more first-level zombies and mutant creatures on the campus of Yunnan University. Wang Mingyang frowned, and the mutant wisteria flower seemed to be getting stronger and stronger. If it received the spiritual energy burst in the early morning again, it would be very likely to be promoted. Again. Boss Wang, what should we do? Do it now. Li Yuchan had just been promoted to the first level 3 hours ago. At this time, his mental power was extremely full and his self-confidence was overflowing. Wang Mingyang pondered for a while, nodded and said, "Get ready, be careful. Li Gabao, when you see the corpse of a first-level mutant creature, check if there is a crystal core first, and if there is, you must get it." The effective range of Li Yuchan's mental power has reached 40 meters at this time, which is enough for the task. Okay, I understand. Seeing that the three were ready, Wang Mingyang took a deep breath, and a large piece of titanium alloy fell to the ground with a bang when he waved his right hand. At this time, there was no need to hide his mustard space. No matter the stunned 3 people behind him, Wang Mingyang moved his mind, and the titanium alloy melted quickly and flew towards the rooftop. The metal cage spread out, Wang Mingyang stepped out, and the metal liquid in the sky instantly solidified into countless sharp silk threads, cutting towards the sky. In an instant, whether it was the branches of the wisteria flowers or the flying mutant birds, they were all cut into pieces by the net formed by these silk threads. Branches, green leaves, and flesh and blood were scattered all over the sky, and a wave of blood rained down on the rooftop. Cry, that a huge mountain eagle flew up with blood on its claws. The trunk of the mutant wisteria trembled, and a green light burst out, which gave birth to branches all over the sky again, and attacked Wang Mingyang close to the ground. Humph. Don't know whether to live or die. Wang Mingyang snorted coldly, flicked his fingers, and a black line suddenly appeared on his fingertips. The moment the black line appeared, the instinct of life made the wisteria frantically retract the branches that spread out, and wrap itself tightly into a rattan ball. The next moment, the black line directly crossed a distance of more than 10 meters and appeared at the root of the mutant wisteria. The rattan ball trembled slightly, and then the thick branches slowly scattered on the ground, and the thick main stem tilted down. The branches that were waving and whipping just now all collapsed to the ground, and there was no movement. Instant kill. Wang Mingyang quickly stepped forward and found the trunk. Moing swung and chopped the wisteria flower directly, and a crystal core as green as jade appeared in the center of the tree. Hee, a good harvest. After putting away the second-level wood crystal core, Wang Mingyang turned his head and looked at the flower bed at the root of the wisteria flower. Lao Gabao, come and dig out the roots of this wisteria flower. Damn, what do you think of me? Li Yuchan looked disgusted, but still ran over quickly. Don't talk nonsense, dig quickly. Maybe there are good things. Li Yuchan stopped talking nonsense after hearing this, and activated his mental power. The rhizome of the wisteria flower slowly rose, bringing up a large lump of soil. After Li Yuchan shook off the soil, Moing swung again, and several round beads emitting a strong breath of life fell out of the cracked rhizome. Life crystal. Not bad. Wang Mingyang's eyes lit up, and he quickly caught the round beads with a faint green luster. If it is a first-order mutant wisteria, it is estimated that this thing cannot be bred, but if it is a second-order one, there is a high probability that it can be bred. This is also the reason why Wang Mingyang kept it and did not kill it in advance. The mutant creatures around surged up frantically, but were blocked by the iron net formed by Wang Mingyang's metal control. Several first-order hunters wanted to break the nets with claw blades, but when the claw blades hit the iron net, they broke into countless sections very smoothly. These iron nets have been shaped by Wang Mingyang to be extremely sharp. Come, one for each person, eat it when you get hurt, it's very useful. There are a total of 6 life crystals. Wang Mingyang kept 2 for safety, and the remaining 4 were shared by the 4 people. Everyone took the life crystals and looked at them with some curiosity, but then, a majestic energy came from nowhere and instantly penetrated all the creatures on the blue planet. At this moment, whether it was running, climbing, or fighting, the creatures stopped instantly. At 12 o'clock in the morning, the spiritual energy of Blue Star burst out unprecedentedly. The entire Blue Star was immersed in the ocean of energy. After an unknown amount of time, Wang Mingyang opened his eyes first, and the spiritual energy explosion seemed to have ended. At this moment, he could clearly feel the free energy in the air, and the whole person was sublimated again. Ha! Am I almost at the second level? Mu Ningxue looked at her hands in confusion, feeling the energy surge in her body, and a faint sense of bottleneck appeared again. Suyu and Li Yuchan also looked shocked. They had just been promoted not long ago, but now, there is already a faint feeling of being promoted again. Don't just look at it, the lotus seeds are almost ripe. Wang Mingyang interrupted the 3 people, and the lotus in front of him released obvious energy fluctuations. The lotus petals quickly withered and dissipated, revealing 3 lotus pods wrapped in them, each of which contained 9 dazzling lotus seeds. The next moment, a beam of green light shot up into the sky, the alluring fragrance spread, and the breath of life contained in the green light immediately made the eyes of the mutant creatures around red, and each of them showed an extremely greedy look. The lotus seeds are ripe. Suyu exclaimed, and his eyes immediately looked at Wang Mingyang. No, not yet. Wang Mingyang shook his head calmly. These lotus seeds need to wait until the green light disappears completely before they are truly ripe. At the same time, 3 beams of light of various colors suddenly shot out from other parts of Chuncheng, straight into the sky. This scene made Wang Mingyang a little stunned, and the others were also surprised. Could it be that there is more than one spiritual object of heaven and earth? But as Wang Mingyang frowned again, I don't know if it's a problem of distance. Wang Mingyang always felt that the 3 colored beams were obviously not as rich in color as the lotus seed beams. Perhaps it was because of the perspective. He had never seen this scene in his previous life. He had heard from others that there were other spiritual objects appearing at the same time. But the strange thing was that those spiritual objects were basically out of town. Before they could think about it, the rooftop suddenly shook, and everyone quickly stood firm and ran to the edge of the rooftop to look down. They saw a 6-meter-tall giant zombie ramming the wall frantically, as if it wanted to demolish the entire building. Not far away, huge rats swarmed in, and a tide of nearly 10,000 zombies rushed, and the ground began to tremble. Everyone, give it a try. I have a feeling that these lotus seeds can help us go one step further. Wang Mingyang stood up straight, looking at the lotus seeds with burning eyes. No matter what happened elsewhere, it was most important to keep what was in front of us. Supreme Tai Dui Tianzuan, do you need to tell me? This is obviously the legendary treasure of heaven and earth. We must get it even if we die. Li Yuchan recited the title, with a strong fighting spirit in his eyes. Taoist practice emphasizes dharma, companions, wealth and land. Aren't these lotus seeds the wealth among them? Suyu and Mu Ningxue also nodded, holding the swords in their hands tighter. Let's do it. Wang Mingyang laughed loudly, and 2 fireballs suddenly appeared in his hands, and he threw them directly at the mutant rats swarming downstairs. The 3 of them were stunned.
It was said that you only awakened 3 superpowers, what is this now? Doraemon, while the fireballs were flying, Wang Mingyang shook his hand again at the group of mutant rats, and the oxygen control superpower was activated. The 2 fireballs quickly shot into the rat group and suddenly stopped. The mutant rats in the surrounding area of 5 meters froze for a moment, and the next moment they were sucked up and flew towards the fireball. Boom! That a violent explosion sounded, and the flames produced by the explosion roared again, instantly igniting all creatures within 20 meters around. The magnetic explosion fireball made its debut, and with the cooperation of the oxygen control ability, its power was so terrifying,